Welcome back to the Small Steps to Self-Love podcast. I'm Shelby Leigh, and I first just want to say that this is the 6th episode, and we have reached over 900 downloads/listens to the podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much if you have listened to any of the episodes, to all of the episodes. If you have a moment to leave a quick rating on Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate that so much. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribing and liking the videos means so much to me, and it really helps out the podcast. I find it very cringy to ask for things like this, but I've learned that it can be really helpful and helps me continue putting out new episodes every week. So thank you so much for listening. I'm hoping next week I can share that we've hit 1,000 listens. I would love that. So thank you again for being here and listening. I asked on my Instagram story what topic we wanted to cover today, and by a narrow margin, feeling like you're behind in life won as today's topic. And as we do in every episode, I have a small step for you to take with you at the end of this episode, so be sure to stay tuned for this week's small step. And this is something that I've been writing about a lot, exploring time and feeling like I'm running out of time. I used to treat each day like a task, like another day that I needed to complete. What can I get done today? What can I achieve today? What can I do today to get ahead, to be successful? Rather than treating each day like an important 24 hours in my life, to use that time for what makes me happy and the life that I want. Treating each day as something that I should be using in my own way, in my own path. I actually wrote a short poem about this topic. There's a couple that explore time in Changing with the Tides. In my book coming out in January, I explore it, and then my 4th book that I'm currently working on, I've been writing a lot about time. So I wanted to read page 76 of Changing with the Tides. It's called To Tomorrow. To tomorrow. I used to think of each day as a fire I needed to smother, a task on a list I needed to complete. Now I think of myself as the flame, unable to be extinguished, leaving behind a trail of ash wherever I go. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. So I think that I wrote that after realizing that I was kind of wishing away days almost, and again, treating them like something on my to-do list that, okay, the next 24 hours is done, here's what I got done, versus using it to carve my own path, using each day to live life the way I wanted to, whether that was working on something or accomplishing a goal or doing a hobby I love that maybe doesn't get me any closer to more money or a promotion or whatever it is, but makes me happy. And all 24 hours of the day don't have to be used for something that will make us more successful, because I think being happy is the ultimate success anyway, and being fulfilled is the best reward. So I think that's what stemmed from that poem, was kind of a way of me writing out, like, I don't want to treat tomorrow like a to-do list anymore. I want to take that control back over my life, and doing what makes me happy is the best way that I can spend those 24 hours of my time. I felt behind many times in my life, so if you feel behind now or you have in the past, you're certainly not alone in that. After talking to friends and other people in my industry personally, which is writing, I found a lot of us have felt that way when we really should not. As a creative person, I tend to have like 30,000 ideas swarming around my head at any given time, and it can be really overwhelming and make me feel like I'm not accomplishing enough, because I think of all these ideas and all the time that it will take and all the time that I don't have, and I will never get all of this done. I will never achieve everything that I want to achieve. I felt like I was drowning and falling behind because I haven't checked off all these imaginary boxes that I'm placing on myself and accomplished all of these things that I want to accomplish. So I wanted to talk first about why we put this pressure on ourselves. Where does this stem from? And I think it's a few different things. I think the first one is society, and I won't speak for every different culture and how different societies around the world kind of treat work and success. But I will speak for the one that I know, which is the American dream kind of ideal. We have a very strong culture of individualism and putting ourselves and our success before other people, and working hard to get ahead and succeed. And I look at other countries that have higher qualities of life, higher happiness rates, and all of that offer way more paid time off of work, paid family leave, things that I could ramble about all day that a lot of people don't get access to in America. But I feel like that culture has really had an impact on people feeling like their work, their job, their career is top priority. And I love hard work. I'm all for hard work and achieving the many goals that I have in life. So I'm definitely not speaking ill of that. And I think that we do have to work hard to achieve our goals. But I also do think it can have an effect mentally on what we prioritize in life, and that feeling of falling behind and feeling like a failure if we haven't accomplished certain work goals or monetary goals or family goals by certain ages. Like if you get married later in life, you are behind. If you have kids later in life, you're behind. If you aren't making a certain amount of money by a certain age, you're behind. If you don't go to college, or you go to college later in life, or you take a year off of school, you're falling behind. I felt it even when I was young in school, if it came to grades or taking longer to learn a certain concept in class. I feel like at any age, this can really impact us and impact our minds and impact what we think that we can achieve, because we feel like we are falling behind. So maybe it's easier to just stay behind or to procrastinate because we don't want to experience that feeling of failure. And so I think that it stems from society. I think it stems from comparing ourselves to other people when we are all on very different paths and backgrounds and journeys and have had a mix of different privileges too. I think that when we're comparing ourselves to other people, we can feel even further behind when really we're comparing ourselves to someone who might have had a completely different experience than us or completely different challenges than we're facing. We just don't see them. I wanted to share another poem. This is kind of a poetry-filled episode, but I have a few on this topic that I felt were worth sharing. This one isn't so positive. It comes from the first half of my book, Changing with the Tides, and if you haven't read it, the first half of the book is more about challenges and mental health, insecurities and anxiety and things like that. And then the second half is more empowering and healing from some of those things. So this poem is called To the One Who Always Wins. I actually wrote this poem with the intention of it not really being about another person, but about society or just people's mindset as a whole of like winning and victory and all of that. So whenever I read this, you might picture someone that you've compared yourself to in the past, or someone that you feel like is way ahead of you, or you might think of it as culture as a whole, or maybe the place where you grew up, you felt this way. So it can kind of be taken different ways, but I'm going to read it for you. To the One Who Always Wins. Your legs are much longer than mine, but still I chase your footprints on the shore. And it doesn't matter how many steps I take because you're always ahead. I'll never catch up. I'll never be good enough. I'm just a shadow lurking behind you, hoping one day you'll turn around and notice how I long to be by your side. I think to other writers whenever I'm feeling down about myself or what I've accomplished, and think to all the writers who didn't start writing until later in life or didn't have their first book published until later in life. And I think that at any age that you accomplish a goal, you worked really hard for it, and you should celebrate that. And so whether, you've published a book at 20 or 70, whatever it is, you worked hard for that, you accomplished that. And for some who have been dreaming their whole life of that, you did it. And it shouldn't be a factor of how much time it took you or the age you were when it happened. That shouldn't hold you back from celebrating that. That shouldn't hold you back from feeling like you aren't successful if it took you longer than others. So I think that that's a mindset shift that's really important to remember when we're thinking about feeling like we're falling behind. And the other thing to remember is how much this feeling can affect our mental health and affect how much we are getting accomplished. Because if we are getting very overwhelmed by the concept of time and the time is slipping away from us, that can lead to procrastination and procrastinating our goals, putting them off. Like I said before, avoiding it because we don't want to fail. We only want to do it if we know we're going to be successful, or if it's going to take us a short amount of time, or whatever it may be. You have time to accomplish your goals. This is the last one, I promise, but there's a poem that I shared, really short poem that I kind of just free wrote about time and how I was feeling, because I wanted to feel better about it myself and not see time as this thing that could hold me back, as this thing that is slipping away from me, that there is limited time in my life. I no longer wanted to see it as that. I wanted to see it as something that was a gift, that was something that I could use to practice, to improve, to grow. So that's where this poem came from. I kind of already just read the poem just by saying all of that, but I'm going to read it for you. It's not in any of my books. Maybe it will be one day, but just a short little reminder that I wanted to read for you today. You have time. You will grow and build confidence and change paths and make mistakes and love deeply and find new passions and laugh freely and cry from joy and cry from pain. And isn't it so beautiful how much we get to feel? That one kind of just came out. It was just written as like a rambling type of thought dump on the page, but I really liked how it turned out, and I feel like it's a good reminder that I keep close by, that I want you to keep close by. For this week's small step, I want you to recall a time in your life where you felt like you were falling behind, like you weren't going to accomplish something in time, but you did. If you are journaling these small steps, you could write down the moment and how it made you feel so that the next time you're feeling behind, you can remember that this is something that you have accomplished in the past when you felt like you were running out of time. This is something that you have done, and remember what you've been able to achieve. And remember, when we're thinking of time as something negative, as something that is slipping away, as something that we are losing or that we're going to run out of it, try reframing it as something positive, as a gift. If you are not feeling confident about a certain thing, think of time as a way to grow and practice and become more confident. It's a positive thing, not a burden. Time is the ultimate tool we have to get better at things, to change our mindset, to become better, to grow, to practice ridding ourselves of self-doubt, and to be on this self-love journey together, which is what we're doing. That takes time. So viewing it as a path to growth versus being a burden or a negative thing is a wonderful mindset shift to take with you this week and in the future. So that is today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope that you were able to take something away from this episode about time and know that you have time to achieve what you want to achieve. So thank you so much for listening. Again, if you have a moment to leave a quick rating on Apple Podcasts or give this video a like on YouTube and let me know what you thought of today's episode, I would love to hear from you, and I will talk to you in next week's episode. Thanks for listening.